If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, right? Because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play. Because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life.
Life under the lights right here at the GOAT Consulting Podcast. It's January 4th, 2021. You made it.
New Year.
What did you do for the New Year? Was it good for you?
Well, I got this shirt, Dare Mighty Things.
And you're going to do that in
That's what we're doing
2021. I know that y'all both had a great New Year. We're happy that you decided to join us in 2021.
Creating the right habits.
Look at him.
Always on top of things.
Make
sure you share with your friends. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean.
He's
the most prepared for all of us here.
Two little double hits right there.
This is going to be good when I feel it.
I'm hoping that Coach Pete may appear and give us a little motivation. But we're glad you're here today. We've got a great episode. It's around this simple idea. The blocking and tackling of today's episode is around the idea that habits are greater than goals. Habits are greater than goals.
I fully subscribe to that.
This is something that we've talked about, and certainly it's timely, it's raw, it's real, it's relevant right now in the middle of a new year, the start of a new year, 4 days in. But before we do that, let's always serve it up in a way that you can get it under the yellow sign. Everybody is welcome with a bottle of syrup. We keep it sticky so that you'll stay around.
We got to drop that line.
In
You gotta go back and listen to the relevance.
Yeah, it's really good. Stickiness. Stickiness. How do things stay around and stay sticky?
Habits.
They stay at Waffle House. They have habits at Waffle House.
They do. We love them for it.
You walk in and boom, 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 boom. You order and they have a system, a set of habits in place.
They go to the jukebox.
Absolutely.
Can I blow this thing up right now and just say, I hate New Year's resolutions.
Yes, you can.
I feel like the Grinch. Hate, double hate. I hate love the Grinch.
New
Year's resolution. He's a goat, by the way.
Gosh,
he's not my goat for this episode, but I was talking to Vanessa about this last night. He's a goat in both worlds, and we get to experience it in one short, sweet film. Hopefully you watched it over the holiday. He's the worst and the best goat all within minutes, and it's just so
insightful.
Well that's odd. That's from Vanessa.
That's so insightful. My goat for today. That's really good. I'd like to know how she landed on that conclusion. As a child, when I watched that, there was like a cartoon version of that before the reel, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh,
I would watch that, and I would lay in bed scared that guy was going to end up at my house.
He's a mean one.
That's what they say. So they say.
Wouldn't touch him with a 10.5-foot pole.
Quotes from the movie.
Have y'all ever seen me as the Grinch character? We're gonna have to share that.
I have seen that. You nailed it.
Pretty incredible Grinch.
I don't know where I saw that. My kids show me all the stuff that you post about.
Oh gosh,
you dressed up on Halloween.
Yeah.
He also has a beard. He needs some beard sheen from our friends.
Viking shop local.
This whole idea of the topic, habits better are greater than goals, really resonates with me. I started about 18 months ago. I'll share this personal story later about this, but I started reading this book called Atomic Habits. I think I've probably shared about it in here before. James Clear writes it, and he says, it's less about the goal and more about the habits we are creating. And the quote is this. He says, the quality of our lives often depends on the quality of our habits.
Yeah.
And that really connects with me. I'll save my personal story because we got to share goat. We got to share our goat, right?
Yeah. Well, my goat, the greatest example of a goat that has great habits is the Energizer Bunny.
Oh.
He just keeps going. He has one habit.
Keeps going and going.
Going and going
I don't know
and going.
If y'all need to see this though. This is the Grinch guy here. That's part of the.
That's really scary.
Yeah, well, there's more to it.
That's you?
Show the camera.
We'll show
the camera.
No, we don't need to show the camera.
Oh, well, what's the point? Oh, wow.
That's scary.
We'll have that up. We'll have that up on our Facebook page later. Okay, so here's my goat. First, I want to give a shout out to my wife, Vanessa, and here's why this connects for me on New Year's. Every New Year's, as long as I can remember, she makes black-eyed peas and collards that have changed my life.
Wow. Good.
And she is the goat of black-eyed peas and collards. Don't call me about your grandma. She's not the goat. Black beans, black-eyed peas, and collard greens. Vanessa, 100% the goat. But my goat for, in addition, second to Vanessa for this episode, is Pappy Van Winkle.
Oh, wow.
So if you've listened, you may or may not know that I'm a bourbon fan. Enjoy bourbon. I enjoy bourbons and some bourbons more than Pappy.
Really?
But that's not the point. Pappy is fantastic. It's good, but it's an experience. It's a brand that they are 100% the GOAT in the bourbon world. They're the most sought after GOAT bourbon on the planet.
Is that a supply and demand type deal there?
It is.
That's part of their story, right?
If you Google Pappy, they're 23 years going for 4,000 plus online.
Wow.
I mean, it is a serious deal, but they've created their goatness over the years of supply and demand. It's a very highly sought after prestige. They've created this brand.
Unique perspective.
And here's one of my favorite quotes that Van Winkle himself said. "We make fine bourbon at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always fine bourbon." And as I think through how bourbon is made, there's so many habits about when to put it in the barrel, when to take it out. If you go to Buffalo Trace, the distillery in which Pappy is made, you have multiple different warehouses, all different brick. Some shades of brick are different so that it creates, they only have 3 recipes, by the way, at Buffalo Trace, and 15, 16, 18 different labels of bourbon, Pappy being one of them. But all of those come from 3 recipes. But the habits that they have with each one create something totally different in each bourbon, where it sits inside the warehouse, what the warehouse is made of, how many windows are in that warehouse. It's a fascinating process.
Wow.
All because of the habits that they've created over the years.
Do you have to drink bourbon if you go on a tour?
You have to. I mean, isn't that the best thing about it?
the
I'm
best
just
part.
asking.
Well,
They don't share Pappy, though.
I think that's a great. Say the quote one more time.
We make fine bourbon at a profit if we can,
Yeah.
at a loss if we must,
But always fine.
but
bourbon.
always fine bourbon.
You know, I think that speaks to our definition of a GOAT. They can compete on unique perspective, education, and experience.
Yeah.
He's saying that based on those 3 things. Sometimes we may have to do it at a loss, but obviously we
Right.
can't do it all the time because we wouldn't have a business, we'd have a hobby.
Yeah.
But they compete
I've
on
never understood the quote where people say, what do they say? They say if
if you're doing something and not getting paid for it, it's not a business, it's a hobby.
yeah, but then they also say that your dream job is something you do for free. And I thought, no, that doesn't exist, right? Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
It's both. It's some of both.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the beginning, some of us may have to take the chance in different industries, may have to take a chance and start off working for very, very low or little to no pay to get started. That is the rare opportunity that happens today.
Yeah, I mean, we make fine bourbon at a profit if we can, a loss we must, but always fine bourbon. The habits of making fine bourbon is very clear.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
try
about,
to take your mind off the cost?
it does for me, especially after a couple Pappies.
What is the Pappy 15 you're going for right now? Can you get it at a regular liquor store?
No, I mean you can, but you won't find. I've never seen one on the shelf.
I haven't
a
either. That's
15.
why I asked.
In fact, I don't think they go on the shelves anymore. If they do, it's because they're selling them for $4,000, which is a little taboo in the industry. If you go into retail and see it for that, they're supposed to sell it, for, some
Regular
kind of
price.
Yeah,
To keep them where they need to be in the market.
yeah.
Habits.
Here's my personal story with this, and this is really where it connects for me. Habits more important than goals, and this is probably a better example than I can ever imagine. So I started reading this book about a year and a half ago, around the time that I decided I was going to do this Ironman, which I did last November. And it's a pretty intense process. And at the beginning, I thought, I want to do an Ironman. Like that was the goal. And if you read this book, you will see that James Clear completely crushes the idea of goals. He says they're really pointless. Habits are the way to go.
Yeah.
And as I read that, and I thought, the goal for me was never, even though I started with this, the goal was never to finish an Ironman or to do an Ironman. The goal, if you have to use that word, it was to become something I wasn't. And that happened as I started creating these habits that ultimately got me to this day that was really a glorified training day that lasted longer than most of my training days, and people threw food at me the whole time, right? Last November 2nd when I finished. Yeah. Right? But it dawned on me is that in the middle of this, it was the becoming. It was the 3 a.m. bike rides that I had to do a whole bunch of times so that I could be home by 10 o'clock to be at the baseball field at 10:30 for my son. And right, I mean, it was the pain and all that created something in me. The becoming and the creating of those habits was much more meaningful than whatever I did that day. The finish line was the initiation. It was the certification of what I had already become.
You believe pain is weakness leaving the body? You said all the
I think
pain.
I might.
Maybe it made you a stronger person.
Well, sure, in a lot of ways. But I think
mentally, physically?
Mentally, no doubt. I mean, I think it created habits in me that nothing else could.
I started a while back, I started a program called 75 Hard, Andy Frisella. Have y'all seen that?
I've heard about this.
I was 17 days in, and it was
You have to start over if you
start
mess it
over.
up, right?
Yeah, and I got sick. I ran outside. I was laying in the bed at 11 p.m.
You do 2 workouts a day.
2 workouts a day. One 45 minutes inside. One's got to be 45 minutes outside. No excuses.
No excuses.
So it was a tough day. It was like 7. You have to take a picture every day. You have to drink a gallon of water. The 2 workouts. You have to follow a diet, and you have to read 10 pages of a book. That's a nonfiction book, and you have to read them and absorb them, not just blow through 10 minutes. And I was laying in the bed. It was 11 o'clock. And I rolled over and I said, I forgot to work outside today. And Sarah said, it's 37 degrees and it's raining outside. And I said, I don't care. I got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I got sick. But just in the 17 days, and I've got to get back on this kick again because I need the habit, like you're talking about. The mental toughness you can build over a short amount of time if you set your mind to it. And like you said, it's just kind of the starting point. It helps you do so much more than just the goal. The goal is 75, do 75 days, but really it's just become more mentally tough and create those habits. Yep. The getting up at, like we said, 2 hours earlier than the world and gaining a month. And man, I got to get back in. I want to do that again soon. But I admire you for doing the Ironman because I know there was plenty of days that you woke up and went, God, if I could get 2 more hours of sleep.
Yeah, I mean, again, those 3 a.m. workouts.
Or I've got a lot to do today, or whatever the excuse may have been.
I always feel better. I go every morning, 6 a.m., Jordan Williams at the Mac, and I always feel better when I go.
And you know what? For me, at least, it never gets easier to get out of bed at that time that you wake.
True.
It never gets easier.
That part doesn't get easier. The other part does, right?
Yeah, being there and what you do, and your body develops that,
right?
To
that
heal
muscle
quicker or whatever. One of my favorite stories, though, and this is really what you do. Habits are so personal and customized. I remember coming home one morning from a 6.5 hour workout training for this Ironman, and I walk in the door, and literally within seconds, Vanessa says, "Hey, Max has his dresser upstairs that needs to come down. Can you go grab that real quick?" And I just thought, it was just one of my favorite stories. Nobody connects with me on that.
Oh, I totally connect with you on it.
But I thought it was funny. Like, here I am coming out. That's
not the first thing that you want to be said to.
You just don't get that appreciation for just what went down. And it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Your habits and what we are becoming is personal. And again, it requires a team of people.
What's the best habit you've developed since you did that, Ironman? Is there something you do now that you didn't do before?
I feel like I'm losing my job, but keep going.
Well, you mentioned this mental, what we think we can do mentally, we have no idea. I remember a couple of months out thinking I don't know how I'm going to finish this 12. And I was hoping to finish around 12 and a half hours, which I did. I have no idea how that's going to happen. And now I'm like, I train for 2 months and finish it around the same time.
Yeah.
And just mentally,
I think
it's a different
You can take
mindset.
that and go to business, go to your marriage, go to anything. And I had a conversation with somebody. I would like to get into the consulting side of things, soon with other people, because I love helping people, like we talked about on one of the last episodes. Go watch it. But she was so trapped in the of what she thought her ceiling was. Like, kind of like what you were just saying. Like, you thought, there's no way I can finish in 12 and a half. And then when you do, how do I finish in 11? And you completely change your mindset, and you realize that what you are capable of is so much more. We all trap ourselves in whatever we think. That's what we kind of cap ourselves to. And I think it's important to get around people and do things like this that are outside of your comfort zone so that you can expand what you think.
Well, the habits,
if that makes sense.
The habits become the blueprint for us reaching whatever the destination is, right? Call it a goal, call it a destination. The habits become the blueprint, the roadmap, the ways, WAZE, to help us get there, right?
Roadmap. We're doing that right now for 2021.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. That's part of a goal, but I think, like what you said, it's what habits are we going to take to 2021 to impact our company and impact the people in it?
And I would even encourage and challenge myself. I love listening to these episodes, by the way. I feel like, God, who said that? That was really good. Because it's a challenge for me, right? But I would encourage our listeners to, rather than create New Year's resolutions, goals, think about habits that you're going to create this year that are going to help you become something maybe you've never been before.
All right, let's talk about those. That's a great idea. That's a great place to land. So instead of focusing on New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals, let's focus on New Year habits.
Yeah, and put pressure on the habits. We've talked about this before, right? Pressure on the process, not necessarily individual, right? Or yourself.
Yeah. So what are they? What are 3 habits, personally, professionally, that you're thinking about that are new or that you want to amp up for 2021?
I think one thing that I have to do is I got to keep studying more. And when I say that, I'm talking about, all the different things we talk about, whether it's me and you together or whether it's reading a book like John, you talk about a lot of times. I think one of the habits I want to do is studying more, having something I want to study and then studying it. And then,
so what I heard you say that is the most important out of that, I think, for you to reach that is not just study more, but decide what are the 5 key areas for you and your business that you really want to focus on and get total clarity about that. Mm-hmm. And then I used to call this discipleship. Mm-hmm. When you could actually hold students accountable, I would get them to find one person that they want to deeply study and become a disciple, so that when you're in that conversation, when you're in that moment for that consulting or for that relationship or for that opportunity, what you say is, I really heard what you said here about sales, about marketing, about relationships, about whatever the topic may be. And I believe in discipleship, and discipleship's finding one author that you truly immerse yourself in. Mine's Joe Calloway. Mm-hmm. And so what Joe Calloway says in that moment is this. One of the things that he says that's so powerful is be the best at what matters most. Once you understand how to do that, it's the only strategy you'll ever need. You can't say it any better. So if you're looking for that, then it's to find what are the 5 big topics that you want to focus on.
For sure.
Then what are the 5 authors, or if you can get lucky enough to find one that translates across all those 5 topic areas, either through podcast, article, video, or blog, and really make that part of your daily habit of learning one thing. It's kind of, it goes back to that 1% idea of getting better.
Well, you talk about keeping the complex simple, right?
Yeah.
So what you just shared is very, to me, as I heard you say it, seemed very professor-like. Yeah. And a little bit more complex than what I connect with sometimes. And I think about what you said, and I think to me, hearing you say it challenges me to be a little bit more complex, because I want to simplify things so much. But if you want to research more, what's one thing every day that you can do to do it? And just stick with that, because what made you get out of bed at 11 o'clock at night when you realized you didn't do your workout outside? was the process. It was those 4 things I'm going to do every single day, and I'm going to put pressure on those things and not myself. So for me, I realized just a few months ago, I want to do 3 things every day as it relates to my business. 5 new relationships every single day, reach out relationships every day.
Yep.
3 follow-ups, and 25 new meetings every 6 months that I have new meetings.
Beautiful.
Very simple. 3 things every day. I'm going to fully put pressure on that process, not myself. Did I do this every day? Is not something I most often think of. It's these are the 3 things. I'm going to put pressure all on that, and then the business will work itself out.
I love it. And you send me emails all the time of the way that you've crafted the email to connect with that person. And I'm like, have you known this person for very long? And you said, no, this is the first interaction we've had.
That's why he's the whisperer.
The whisperer, the LinkedIn whisperer. But it's true. I mean, I think, you challenged me in doing that because we have conversations about growth and continuing to grow in networks and relationships, but being that specific about the habit. And I love what you said about putting pressure on the habit versus yourself.
Yeah.
If you'll put the pressure on the habit, if you'll find the one author, not even the topics, just the one author that you go, man, this is the way that this person writes it to me, the way that this person communicates to me in their podcast, it really makes sense for me.
Yep.
I think that's the bigger challenge than identifying the topic areas. I think it's first finding somebody that can serve it up in a way that you can get it.
Like this.
Like
this
this.
podcast.
One of the
right here.
biggest things that I want to do in 2021 is have distribution be a big focus of my business.
Fantastic.
What makes my company in Tennessee different than anybody else is that I have inventory. I can make things happen that day if I need to.
Yeah.
Whereas most other people, like I was 2 years ago, I have to order this and then I have to order that and I have to order this and I have to order that. So maybe it's somebody that I study, like maybe I study Jeff Bezos and how he went from 0 to 100
Yes.
Out of his garage.
out of his garage. And he did it started with books, and maybe I start with turf. But
Then to think about it first, I think, big rocks in front of small rocks. I mean, right? Put your big rocks in front of your small rocks. What's the big rock? Well, the big rock is what percentage do I want distribution to be part of my total revenue for 2021? And just because that's what gets you going in the morning. When you wake up and you know what when we sat down originally and put those numbers together to project where you wanted to be, you woke up and you thought about those numbers every day.
Yeah.
And then to find
gosh, we talked about that. I thought they were so big.
right.
November last year, we sat down and did this. Me and Colby met one day for a couple hours and said, what does 2020 look like?
Yeah.
No COVID's hit, right? None of this deal's hit. And we said, this is what I want to do next year and why. And then, okay, how are we going to achieve that? How do we break that down by quarterly, by monthly, by weekly?
Pause. That's why the habits are so much more important. What Tyler, you just said, what you guys did together in your secret meetings that you don't invite me to, is you said, here's the goal, right? Here are these big numbers. I have no idea how I'm going to do. I have no idea how I'm going to do an Ironman. I can't even imagine my body getting there, my business getting to this place. And then we're going to back it all the way up.
To habits.
And we're going to create these habits that help us get there. Because here's why, and here's something I would like for myself and all of us to leave with at the top of 2021. Maybe you're coming off the best year you've ever had. Maybe you're coming off the worst year you've ever had, or maybe some of both. Trajectory is greater than results. In the same way that habits are greater than goals. What you're doing today, the habits you're putting in place today, are going to get you to the places you can't imagine going. And the focus has to be on the habits, not to the end result.
I love the
Trajectory is greater than results.
And here's the backdrop, and we'll land the plane here for today. I did not write this. Someone sent it to me, but what God has gifted me with is just to take things and find them and hold on to them.
You're a
And-
dissector, for sure.
Absolutely. And so listen to this. I got this from a student. So powerful. So you think about the 2 things that you just said.
Yep.
About habits being greater than goals and trajectory being greater than results.
Results, yep.
And think about this for 2021. This person wrote this to me for a letter that she's writing. The last year has exposed vulnerabilities in every facet of our society and world, from individual anxieties about health and safety to our broader weaknesses in our health, economic, social, and government systems. It's been a time of reckoning. There's been a call to look inside ourselves and the way we participate in our communities. I've asked myself, how can I harness my gifts and interests in a way that is giving, helpful, and healing? And that has been a motivator in deciding to take the next step in my education and career. It makes me think about the two things that you just said. And when you think about your life and your business and the way that you want to impact people, the backdrop that makes 2021 different than any other time in the history of the world is the things that this student just said in a letter about furthering her education.
Well said.
And when you think about that, gives me hope for the future when I read things like that. Number one,
Does she listen to the podcast?
well, she needs to. Number one, but then number two, when you think about it in the context of, okay, so if we have been exposed to vulnerabilities in every facet of our society, how can we, in fact, put ourselves in a position to move forward? And I think the biggest takeaway from today's session is that you move forward by understanding that it's habits over goals and that it's trajectory over results.
And can I ask for our audience to share some feedback with us on that?
You can.
Because that's helpful to us. I mean, every week my friend John Heil sends me a text. I listen to the episode this week. Here's what I got out of it. I mean, that's so meaningful to us. And so as we go into 2021, that's our ask for you. We'll keep trying to put out good content. You decide if it's good or not. And then share it with us.
Critical
Share what's
feedback.
helpful.
Yeah. Well, feedback's where you learn the most.
Yeah. There's an episode on that.
Yes, we did. And by the time that January 4th rolls around, he'll have 6 new companies started.
Yes, he
right?
will.
Right, and you'll have how many
Beard
new
shame.
relationships over Facebook, over LinkedIn?
Wow. 5 times 5. Well, we're in January 4th. So
Yeah, so you've got a lot.
yeah.
You got a lot. For Carl, the producer right here in Pod Studio 1, and for John Byers, that always visits us with great T-shirts. Today it was Dare Mighty, and
Dare mighty things.
Dare Mighty Things, and I know he's going to do that in 2021. And for Tyler Burnett, who always brings that passion and energy in the Goat Turf way, I'm Colby Jubenville, and this is the Goat Consulting Podcast.
Boom.